never conquer I and I.
Good evening and welcome once again to Plain Talk. Last week I indicated to you that we would be having the team from the Mayor and City Council as well as Smart City Solutions, the company that will be implementing the parking meter system in Georgetown. I had a call yesterday from Mr. Kit Nascimento, who is the public relations consultant to the company, and he indicated that they could not appear this evening because the matters were fluid, and that matters might be covered on the program this evening that would change by tomorrow morning. He's assured me that it wasn't a cancellation, that he and they would take up the invitation very shortly. Well, we'll wait to hear what shortly means. In the meanwhile, and tonight, I have with me again Mr. Sherod Duncan, who is a recently elected member of the Council of the Alliance for Change, AFC. He's also been deputy mayor for a few years now.
A few months.
A few months. A few months, sorry.
A few months.
But you've been on council since when?
Since 2016.
2016.
April.
Let's talk about the AFC because you've just been appointed to the executive, elected to the AFC. Have you decided that, look, I am pursuing a career in politics in Ghana?
Yes, I have decided that.
You've seen politicians over the years. You no doubt have read of the politics of Ghana going back even shortly before independence. Why would you choose politics as a main vocation?
I think when I look at it, it's one of the areas in which you have a direct means of affecting change, one, and affecting people's lives for the better. And I don't take that lightly. We get a chance to sit down at so many levels and create policies and create programs and systems which can really and truly improve the lives of people. And that is one of the things I'm very passionate about in terms of empowering people. And I think politics really at a very pure level allows you to do that, affect people positively.
Do the terms politics and pure go together in Ghana? You've seen nepotism, corruption, self-enrichment, arrogance for the better part of your life.
And I think it's a fair comment, but it's also high time that we begin to affect change in whether subtle ways or very macro ways, that we want a different kind of democracy in our country. And as I've been saying, if something was wrong on the previous administration, nepotism, you mentioned that, protected incompetence, if those things were wrong on the previous administration, it is wrong under this administration. And we who serve the administration and support it, our voices ought to be the loudest in bringing those things to the fore and in condemning them also and seeking to change them.
You talked about this new politics. The AFC, when it came on the scene, was regarded, and it projected itself as, look, we're these people. We're not like that lot on one side and that lot on the other side. They stubbornly defended their independence. Now they're very much with one side. I think the then leader described the situation as if you were to go with the APNU, the FC would be dead meat. What has changed? And was his prediction wrong?
I think the prediction was wrong. When I first saw the AFC in 2011, had a good chance to size them up. I thought that this is where I belong. This is what I want to contribute to. Transparency and good governance and accountability. I don't think much of that has changed. I think there's a sort of adjusting to life as a coalition partner. Some give and take, some compromise here and there. For me personally, there are certain things I refuse to compromise on.
Like?
Integrity, accountability, transparency. The president has said a few months ago that the only contracts that are supposed to be secret because of the nature of them are defense contracts. Every other contract should be in the public domain.
Well, hasn't the government breached that undertaking? I mean, we don't want to get on this parky meters. That contract is still not available. You've heard persons saying that, look, all these oil contracts that are being signed, where are they? So is that saying one thing and not walking the talk?
Well, I believe strongly that the party leaders, other than me, have got to give an account for what they are doing. I'm not in the central government, and the people who have elected them, who have elected us to office, have got to bring to bear a certain amount of pressure, for the want of a better word, in demanding from our elected official what they promised. And we promised a different kind of government, a different kind of governance structure. And the populace have got to demand that on a daily basis.
But the populace are demanding that, but they're not saying it. Prompting Henry Jeffrey, one of our foremost political writers, to say, look, the AFC gone.
I don't believe that.
Why is the AFC not asserting itself more firmly? And quite frankly, it's not only asking for the government to do what it said it would do, but for the AFC's own policies. Hold Mr. Granger accountable for what he said he would do.
I can agree with that. We have been doing some of that. When we felt, for instance, on the Minister Harman issue with the amount of authority vested in him as Minister of State, we've made our concerns known with that. at central government.
Nothing has changed.
Um,
In fact, he's now got some more responsibilities.
well, I'm not certain about that. I haven't been paying too much attention again to central government, but these are things that we have been speaking out on. The Dr. George Norton, former Minister of Health, issue with the bond. We've made some strong commentary there. Again, my own personal view.
Again, sorry to interrupt you, but I think the now party leader participated in a cabinet committee to investigate, and said, well, it didn't come out very strong. It seemed to have glossed over the serious issues that the public felt were involved.
And I would not disagree with you. I have my own personal views on the matter. But I feel, again, for a young party now in government for the very first time, we were on a kind of a learning curve and making some adjustments to life as being a coalition partner. I think we have found our footing, and I think going forward, you will see a much stronger stance on a lot more issue than you have seen in the past.
Well, let's take an issue that in which you've played a prominent part. The AFC, I think its former leader, Mr. Ramjatan, made this statement that the AFC is neither for nor against the parking meters. Now, then later today, something else happened. Is the AFC, being opportunistic here?
I don't think so, because I have served in the city council at the pleasure of the AFC, who put me forward as a candidate.
You're not at the pleasure.
You're the for want of a better phrase.
No, not at all. I think the voters would feel very badly. They voted for you, and you say you're at the pleasure of the AFC.
For the want of a better phrase, it was through the AFC that I came into public life in this manner. And so I have been in touch with my party leadership at every step of the way in terms of what was happening in City Council, where the issues were, and how we should be going forward.
So why didn't they come out earlier on this matter?
I think they were kind of gauging the situation, seeing if my own interventions might yield fruit. Some of it did. But the matter have been escalating in recent weeks, and I think the party chose the opportune time to really make it voiceable. I've been there as an AFC member, as an AFC councillor on the city council, and I cannot separate what I've been doing on city council from the AFC, because I am an AFC councillor at the end of the day.
But there's no AFC councillor and APNU councillor. Is there? Or did you not go into these local government elections as a joint slate?
I don't like these labels. I would like to think first and foremost.
No, but you said AFC, and you identify yourself with the AFC.
And
I'm saying that in the local government elections, there was not that separation. Am I wrong? That there was not APNU separately contesting the election from AFC?
No.
So that's correct. You're part of the APNU AFC.
But the new dispensation, as new as it is, in the eyes of your fellow councillors, we are not all councillors. You have councillors from PPP, Mark Benchcroft from Mayor, Team Legacy. You have councillors from AFC. You have councillors from PNC, APNU, which makes up the council. And so, for identification purposes, there are three of us who represent the AFC as part of the coalition on the council, right? I have always said, and I'll be very frank, that I do not believe that the coalition has been truly operationalized at the local government level. And I've said this to my party leaders for a very long time. The APNU AFC has, the APNU section of the coalition have stopped caucusing with us, perhaps because we don't say yes to everything. We have a very independent outlook on the plans and programs, and we make our voices heard on those issues. And the parking meter was one of them. And so I've said to them that we must not only talk unity as a catchword, but unity has to be operationalized, that you must be able to sit down with people who disagree with you, but you sit down with them nonetheless, because as a part of a democratic process, you have to sit down with people who don't say yes to you on every issue, but still find a common ground to advance the business of the city.
Let's go to the recent conference the party had. Were you surprised at the change in the leadership?
Not necessarily. I think that if you have been a member of the AFC on the ground, you would have known there was discontent fermenting on the ground.
Concerning the leadership of Mr. Ramjatan?
And I think concerning the leadership of the party on the whole, that perhaps persons felt, we should be doing things a little different. We should have been going in a different direction, perhaps. And those persons made their voices heard. And that is part of a democratic process.
Well, it's part of a democratic process, but Mr. Trotman is part of that very leadership, very prominent member of the coalition government as a representative of the FC, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So why this rejection, close as it was, of Mr. Ramjatan, but yet in favor of Mr. Trotman?
Well, again, I think rejection is a strong word. And in a democratic process, at the end of the day, the better candidate, quote unquote, better, wins. And it was, to me, a very competitive process. I think there's lots that...
Well, you said you weren't surprised that...
No, because on the ground you begin to hear, people saying, who they think might better serve the party interests at this juncture. And then you kind of get a sense of where the conference is going to go.
Is the AFC engaging in musical chairs? Ramjatan, Trotman, Ramjatan? Is that what this rotation really means?
I don't think so, in a sense.
But that's what's been happening for the past 6 years.
Personally, being part of the AFC conference, nobody canvassed me to vote a certain way or to encourage others to vote a certain way.
No,
right? So, in terms of the musical chair, I think there's a general sense of where the party membership wants the party to go.
Those are the only two persons who have held the leadership of the
party.
Yes, well, who have held. And so the question is, are we only going to see these persons, one take 2 years and followed by the other?
Again, the AFC is a very young party, and we're going to be at the next conference, I think in 2019. And so we have to see how things go. We have lots of new people, energetic people on the national exec now. So things could change.
How do you explain the devastating loss of Mr. Patterson's position as General Secretary of the party to someone who is largely unknown in the party?
I think, Mr. Party business and party politics is always a nuanced, intriguing thing.
But then that's not the same thing with all political parties. I think these guys are supposed to be different, aren't they?
I think what party people got a sense of is that maybe in some instances, I don't know when people went to the voting booth what they thought of, that we want a general secretary who is more on the ground 24/7. And I've heard that I think the party's interest.
Why don't you want a leader? Why don't you want a leader who is on the ground?
No, I think they said that they might want the party's interest. Again, this is the thinking of the members of the party to serve the administration aspect of the party on a more day-to-day basis, as against somebody who's in full-time employment. And if you know the role of the general secretary as per the constitution, it's more of an administrative role. And I think that was the thinking of membership.
So it was this loss was not what you're suggesting is not a voting loss, not a rejection.
No, I don't think so.
But a realignment?
I think so. I think it's more about that. I think that there's specific things that Mr. Trotman brings to the party, and they are a specific kind of skill set that Minister Ramjatan brings to the party, right? And in life, I have accepted there's need for change.
But it's alliance for change. But you remember as well, Mr. Trotman at Bartica in the election campaigning, he made statements something to the effect that he never really left the PNCR.
I can't remember that. I really won't want to pronounce on that.
Now, one of the areas on which the party has always, from its conception, been very strong about constitutional reform, it seems to have gone extremely silent on this matter, despite the fact that one of the leaders of the party, now its elder, is responsible within the government for constitutional reform.
I think that we've been making strides. There are some issues that we're looking at.
What sort of strides?
Personally, I'm going to be taking on looking at local government issues. I mean, there are lots of things when I look at, for instance, Chapter 2801 that I think
no,
we can change.
We talk about constitutional reform. We're not talking about statutory reform. 2801 clearly requires the city council to sit down and say, let's have a subcommittee and see how our city should in fact be run, and the bylaws, which are what?
No, but the bylaws are...
But we're talking about the constitutional reform for which Prime Minister Moses Nagamoto is responsible. You said you're making strides. What strides have you made?
I would hate to go into that aspect of it. Again, I don't sit in
You're
central
not a
government.
person like
I don't sit...
No, but these persons... no, Sherod. These persons are appointed by the people. You talk about accountability. They should be accounting to the people, periodically.
Agreed.
Mr. Nagamoto received some study from another AFC person, Mr. Nigel Hughes, from whom we've heard and about whom we've heard nothing from the AFC. It never once said, well, because the last time we heard a statement, Mr. Nigel Hughes is taking a time out. What's happened? Now, that's not accountability. But on the question of constitutional reform, Mr. Nigel Hughes presented Mr. Nagamoto over a year ago some report on procedures for constitutional reform. A year has gone. We've heard nothing. How do you explain that?
I am not certain a full year has gone.
Yes,
right?
December 31 to December 31.
Mr. Rami, you would know that constitutional issues are not light issues. And the Constitution states clearly that it should not be changed for light and transient causes.
I don't think
right?
it says that. I don't think it
so,
says that. You did constitutional law at UG as well, you know that.
I think it says that.
No.
But on the whole, the Constitution is not something that changes every day.
No, but
we can appreciate that.
But
right?
Sherod, and you wanted the younger breed. You want to bring about change. You have made this commitment from the time of your conception. You've got this report for a year. You're the leader of the house. You're the senior man you're the second in the political hierarchy. Why is nothing being done? And let me tell you what is surprising. Tell me if you knew that a UNDP team was coming into Ghana for to address constitutional reform.
I'm not clear on that.
See what I mean? And you are on the AFC executive.
But only quite recently.
Sorry?
Only quite recently.
My friend, this happened, this is reported in the news just 2 days ago. Lincoln Lewis from the TUC had to break it. And as a matter of fact, it's on the news again on the social media. Now, surely Mr. Nagamoto, this senior advisor to the party, ought to be telling the party what it's doing.
And I'm certain that he will.
Now, okay, I'd hate to think you defend things that really are unacceptable.
No, I'm not going to.
He should have said this to the people. People should know this. We should not hear this secondhand, should we?
I agree with you. And if I had more information on the issue, I would tell you straight up what I thought was happening.
But the problem is, you don't. And that's the problem. You don't. Now, so what are they doing here? We have started a process. That committee, headed by Nigel Hughes, I think Gino Passad may have been in, our Professor Duke Pollard from the University of Ghana. They presented this report, and that should have been the first phase. So the AFC has really let the country down on this question.
We're having our first exec meeting on Saturday, and I'm certain that the public will hear more from the AFC going forward as to use your word, realign the party, realign ourselves with our core values, our core purpose. And I'm certain some of the very issues you mentioned here as constitutional reform, etc., we're going to be able to raise them and get some clarity.
We were, I think I hosted a couple of debates at UG. Yeah, that's right. Law school has come up from time to time.
Yes.
How much do we know? And I actually had a group of students from the University of Guyana and one prospective student. How much do we know about what's happening with this contract as well? The contract for a law school.
Let me tell you this: that I would love to to champion everything that happens in this country that needs a little light shed on it. But one of the things I've always said to the law students, and when I go back there, I always make the point that this is not only an academic exercise. Now is an opportune time for you to get your feet wet in what's happening. I was one of the persons who was advocating vociferously for a local law school, right? And so I would love to see the law students first to third year pick up the mantle and get their feet wet on some of these very issues. The contract for the law school, the modus operandi, the players, what it's going to look like, and all aspects of it. So it's not only for certain segments of the public. All of us have a part to play in the kind of democracy that we want. And I think the students at law have a greater onus on them based on their study area and based on something that is going to affect them directly.
You always describe yourself, and I'm not talking tales out of school here, as a student of law. So that must include you, doesn't it?
Yes, and I have made I have been on this matter of a local law school, doing the research on it, top to bottom, for a very long time. I just haven't had a lot of time of late to focus on that aspect of it.
You're in the parking meters now, are you?
That's another thing by itself.
Now, have we done a proper survey of the demand in the area of legal education and the structure of legal education as it should be?
I don't know what obtains recently, but I remember when I was researching the subject matter. As a matter of fact, the Legal Education Council, or whatever is the legal council in CARICOM, had said sometime around 2013-14 that they were doing some study within the region concerning that. But I remember when I read the Barton report, which I think was produced in 1996, they were looking at the countries that have law schools. And all of them had a greater ratio of lawyers to population.
Yes.
All of them. Good. Locally, we've had about, the ratio that I had seen back then was about one lawyer to about 4,000 persons as a population, which other countries had a much lower ratio than that.
Right, no, I think
it could have changed by now, right? But based on that, there was every likelihood, and if you wanted to use that as a reasoning, we can say our population might be dispersed to several areas, and lawyers getting to X place and X place to defend people is cumbersome, and the market in Georgetown is a very congested market legally. But I think to look at it like that is to look at it from a very myopic standpoint. When Trinidad was looking at a local law school, there was you weren't there. Yet Trinidad went ahead through UWI to open through the University of Trinidad and Tobago, I think it is, to open a separate law school.
Yes.
Because I think Trinidad understands the role that trained lawyers coming out of Trinidad can play not only in Trinidad but in the region.
Fine, I agree with you, and probably the figure is more like 1 to 2,500,
Yes.
not 1 to 4,000, because we have about 300 lawyers in Guyana at least. So it's 750,000 you're talking about. But yet you would accept that if you are going to go into any project, you should have a fairly decent market survey. You would have read in places in the developed countries that there's a surfeit of lawyers. So we have to decide what is the optimum, or what's the kind of syllabus, the kind of training we should have. Whether you should have now what you call paralegals. How do we restructure the entire restructuring of the profession? That has not happened.
I agree with you. And again, some of this has to be led perhaps by civil society. Some has got to be led, the discussion that is, by the university and even the students. I was telling them, look, we had a very successful, in my mind, symposium in 2014 on the future of legal education. And I think it should be something that is done on an annual basis, taking off different chunks of what legal education is locally and also in the region. And so some of these things can be discussed there. But I believe that that having an LLB and an LEC is not only for practice in court. I think an LLB is a good, strong first degree to have that can lead you in various sectors. So when you look at that as against persons who are practicing, I think when we think about people doing law, we think Crow Street is going to be swamped, but we don't think of the CEO for the recycling plant on the East Bank. We don't think of the corporate secretary who is there with her, but they aren't practicing on Crow Street. So there's corporate law. There's a whole
but
host
still,
of
it's okay to get these examples, but you still need a structured.
I understand
examination.
But I thought from what I've read that the body that is in place, they're looking at a feasibility study. I think that's what they're undertaking now.
Well,
I could be wrong.
Yes. Well, I'm not suggesting you're wrong at all, but again, you only get bits of information coming out from time to time. Why can't we hear everything? You're talking about an entire profession, and that influences the course of your politics, the course of your national ethos. You need a little bit more of a structured approach. You're a deputy mayor, but yet you operate in a conflict zone with on the very side of which you're a part. This parking meter, for example, even the budget, you seem to be a dissenter.
You think so? I like what is good and what is right, and maybe it's my training in law to stick to the letter of the law, but still have an appreciation for the spirit of it. And some things you can see from a mile off. I think if you're thinking about party politics and party line, and the perception of a party line too, because that happens too. You have a perception the party will want to go in a certain way. You would go in a certain way. But I don't think that serves this country best. And when the president came to City Hall on June 27th last year, he said that you're not here to serve the party. You're here to serve the people. And I take that very seriously. I take the oath that I took as deputy mayor before the president very, very seriously, all the words of it, without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
Are your colleagues taking it seriously and acting seriously on it?
Well, I think that the public will have to look at that.
No, I'm asking you what you think. I'm asking you
make
what you think.
An assessment. I don't know what's in people's hearts, honestly.
You move around. You must. But whether you know what is in, nobody knows what is in anybody else's heart. Only Kellyanne Conway thinks that she knows what's in the heart of that gentleman
across the pond.
Yeah. Well, he's on our side of the pond. But do you think you and your colleagues are operating in the same arena? Are see the issues at the end of the day after you've debated, analyzed, argued, that you're working towards a common objective?
I think so. I think all of us want betterment for Georgetown.
Did you vote for the budget?
No.
Well, that must be
No.
the budget is the plan of the council, of which you are deputy mayor. Are you voting against it?
I'm allowed that. It's a democratic
No,
process.
we know you're no, but if you also, if you do not agree, you can't be part of a team and yet publicly opposing the team either.
I agree.
And voting
I've
against-
always said to people that city council runs as an organization, and because of how maybe politics work and the media work, you hear the sensational. You don't see the 95% things we agree on. You see the 5% that we disagree on.
No, but the big things, Sherod, and I'm not trying to. We go back a few years from Eugene, but you have voted against the council's policies and projections for the year. One of the centerpieces, certainly, if not in money terms, is this question of the parking meters. You have come out, you've publicly identified yourself in opposition to the council. You're not working with the team.
In a democratic process, you're allowed to dissent and you're allowed to register those dissents. And I think, had the good fortune to have maybe time bore me out as being right, at least for now on the parking meter issue.
In what sense?
I've made my concerns known.
The parking meters are going through.
Yes, but I've said to the council since inception that from the research I have done, anywhere where parking meters have been implemented without buy-in from the stakeholders, it has always meant a detriment to businesses.
So you're opposed to the parking meters?
I'm not opposed to the parking meters. I'm opposed to the approach they've taken to implement them.
So you would still proceed with parking meters?
Not in the current format.
What is the format you would be find acceptable?
Tendering it, right? Our law says 22(1) says that any contract for over $250,000, if it's not an emergency, should be tendered. And this contract should have been sent out to tender, and let us see what are the best options for the city. Let us start there. Even before going out to tender, we should have come to the council and say, hey, council, should we have parking meters? And let's have a debate on that. Let's look at it, let's flesh it out, and then we move to tendering if that be the case.
Well, if you say that democracy allows, and it does, you to object and oppose the principal policies of the very council which you're a part, and you felt the council was violating the act and the bylaws, why didn't you take it further and seek a ruling from the court?
I have done as much as I can do, and as I've said that I've always been in touch with my party on what I think my next step should be, the party's next step in terms of the representation in the council and in the coalition, and I've always acted accordingly. And to date, I have been increasing my agitation, for the want of a better word, in terms of where do we go next. And I have consistently, I've hoped that maybe better sense would prevail, and that I didn't have to take the council to court. But that has never left the options on the table.
This matter reached the National Assembly, didn't it? The parking meters.
Yes.
And your party voted in favor of it.
No.
They didn't vote against it.
No. It as a matter of fact, there's a court matter pending, so it's sub judice, I think that's the term.
Sub judice.
Yes, and so it's the Parliament didn't debate the matter.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think the mayor and the town clerk, very strong-headed gentleman, do you think they get credit for the good things that they've done?
What are the good things?
I'm asking you.
Do you ask me whether they get credit for the good things?
They have helped to make the city noticeably cleaner, not perceptibly cleaner, but noticeably cleaner.
And
They claim They claim to be this, the parking meters, they claim that this is an attempt to bring some order on the roads of Georgetown, to lead to maybe better use of motor vehicles, a better environment and all these issues. Those principles can't be easily discounted, can they?
Nobody's challenging that, and nobody's challenging the purpose parking meters can solve. Good, but all of that good intention must follow the law. Good, you cannot have a contract that is never submitted to the council on the same issue of the parking meters.
Why didn't you go to the Commissioner of Information and try to force the release of that contract?
Actually, when I read the review of the Ministry of Finance, I thought the review was thorough concerning the contract, and I didn't actually need a physical copy.
But you're a lawyer. That's almost hearsay, Sherod.
In a sense, yes. In a sense, yeah.
You can't take that as and you're a councillor, you're deputy mayor.
In a sense, but I thought that based on what the report did, I think the report.
But the report itself said it did not have access to the entire contract, I think.
No, the report said it didn't have access to some of the studies that should have supported the implementation of the contract. But as far as I know, the Finance Ministry and the Attorney General's office had the contract. And I think that the report, especially from the Finance Department, the Finance Ministry, did a very thorough job of looking at the contract, and I was satisfied with that document. I was dissatisfied, however, that the recommendations from the Ministry of Finance were not implemented. But I want to come back to one of the things that you said early on about some of the work of the council. And while again, nobody disputes some of the ideas that has been generated by the council that are good ideas, like the parking meter contract, but the way the council has gone about trying to get some of this thing done. Look, when the new government came in, new government gave to council $300 million towards the cleanup. So the council didn't find that money on their own.
Yes.
Good? So they were spending government's money. The Auditor General's report on how that $300 million was spent, somebody should have been fired. Vouchers weren't signed. Signature of the finance chairman was missing from hundreds of millions of dollars. It was just, what do you call that?
Who would you hold responsible for
I
this?
would hold the town clerk responsible.
Just the town clerk?
I would hold the town clerk and the city treasurer.
What about the mayor?
And the mayor also.
What about the deputy mayor?
Right? Well, hold me responsible. The public can hold me responsible if they believe I am responsible for what has happened there.
Well, the problem, however, how does the public hold anybody responsible? If the people just don't listen, don't want to comment on television programs, to explain their actions.
The council makes the policies for the city. The town clerk is supposed to be implementing those policies as the chief executive officer for the municipality, and consistently the town clerk has gone above what he's authorized to do. And this is not just my word.
So he's acted
ultra
beyond his
virus.
powers.
Yes. And the minister has written to him, the minister has written to the mayor concerning this. When the vendors were moved from Rock Street was one instance. And so I can take blame for what I know about. If a contract comes before the council and was fully vetted, and we allowed it to go through, and it presents hardship to the citizenry, I can take responsibility for that because I was there and I sat and I said yes to it. But in absence of that, where the council is circumvented, the powers of the council is circumvented, then I would not take responsibility for those things. And I will continue to speak out when I see the authority of the council is circumvented.
So what would you... I asked you whether you think the council gets, and the town clerk get the credit they deserve for the positives, but you've raised this issue of accountability. One of the city council has not presented audited financial statements for years.
As a matter of fact, I think the city treasurer went before the public accounts committee in Parliament recently, and 8 years of accounting cannot be has just disappeared, right? And to my mind, this is what should concern us as councillors. When we sit around the table, this is the anatomy of the administration, and people are just thinking how the party is going to look and how this is going to be done and who is going to be upset and all these various things, which I don't have any time for. People, as you said, and we're saying here, must be held accountable. And if this is supposed to be the portfolio of the city treasurer, and the city treasurer's office falls under the town clerk's office, then the administration has to be held accountable by the councillors. The council is the highest decision-making body.
Why did you vote against the budget?
The budget is purporting to be a revitalization of local communities. That's the theme, in context of a green economy. And for my mind, and I've said this to the council, these are just words on a page. When the budget is starting at an $807 million deficit, it says to me we aren't doing anything new for the city than we have done last year. Even the issues that I looked at to bridge the budget gaps, that is if all things remain equal. In the kind of economy that we're dealing with right now, I don't see it happening. Grants and donations and those kinds of things. And so if we're starting with a minus, it means that none of the communities, the 7 constituencies, are going to get the kind of attention that they really and truly need. And so to me, the budget might just be last year's budget regurgitated plus 20%.
Do you think you've opposed the parking meters, as you said, on the grounds of accountability, transparency, legality? Do you think it's been worth the while? Because if you were to take, if you were, and you have increased the rates and taxes by 10%, that's much more than you're going to get from the parking meters. Is it really worth the trouble with these parking meters?
Yes, because the parking meter fees started at $500 per hour. That's where it started at. And it's only with tremendous agitation with the review of the contract that we got it down to 200. But what we have seen, that is still a very steep cost for lots of the average citizens. And the Attorney General, as of this afternoon, agrees with us.
But before he said it was okay, it was legal, and it was a matter for the City Council.
Yes. What he said in his report to Cabinet is that the city needs to look at the figures. They need to look back and adjust the figures. And it's with. And
but
it's
that's
with
not
that.
the function of the Attorney General's chambers. That's the Ministry of Finance should be telling you about figures. The Attorney General should tell you whether or not the procedures have been followed.
But I think
and whether the contract was legal.
I think he said the contract was legal, but as has been my concern is that the procedural issues weren't looked at.
But suddenly, and this is to the detriment of the company, everybody's now backing off from this contract.
Why is that?
Well, I should ask you. The AFC is certainly backing off of it. The government itself seems to be backing off.
I think the AFC statement is not an accurate one, because again,
the statement is not an accurate.
I represent the AFC on the council.
Have you tried to correct the AFC then?
Right.
It's not accurate?
No, you have said the AFC is now backing off the contract,
Yes.
and I'm saying I represent the AFC on the council. I have opposed this contract from day one. What I've seen is in a lot of other quarters, people have suddenly started backpedaling from this contract because they realize the enormity of what we're getting ourselves involved in.
AFC is just dancing around this, saying one thing in the morning and another prominent member says something in the afternoon. Who speaks for the AFC in this matter?
The General Secretary speaks for the party, and
well, he hasn't said much.
Since the leader of the party, the former leader rather, said that I speak for the party on this matter at local government, that has not changed.
The the battle between you and the city council continues. You oppose major things. What kind of rapprochement? Because you talk about bridging the gap. What kind of rapprochement are you trying to seek? And this is my final question.
Let me deal with it on two levels. I have said that outside of public opposition, the city council has to move forward, and so I think, and I've always maintained this, that we are very professional as it comes to dealing with issues at the city council. So I've engaged the mayor on numerous issues outside of the parking meter contract, and we have agreed as a council on lots of other issues outside of this.
And the second point?
That I believe that we have to sit down collectively, not only as a council, but looking to sit down with all of the stakeholders, whether it's a tripartite committee, whether it's the private sector, substantially, the PSC, the GCCI, and especially the public, the residents of Georgetown, who will always bear the brunt of whatever program, whatever policy that is rolled out. And again, coming back to when the president visits City Hall, he said that, one, we should look at parking lots. He never spoke about parking meters. And what he said, that the City Hall has got to be more consultative.
Well, on that note, on consultation, Sherod, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Sherod Duncan, Deputy Mayor, who contested the elections on the APNU plus AFC platform. Operators, viewers, thank you, good night. I can make no promises about smart city solutions and whether or not we'd have them next week. I'm still hoping to do so, but until then, thank you and good night.